Nuremberg 2.0. We go to D.C., where one of the most devious, deceptive, nasty sons of bitches finally gets his comeuppance, gets what's coming to him.
Who?
One Anthony Fauci.
Fuck you.
He sits in front of Congress, cries,
bullshit?
calls out death threats,
Bullshit.
and at the end of the day, gets a pat on the head.
Oh, yes, of course.
I'm Jez Berganzo on this. Can we now send him to the gallows?
Kill the monster!
No. But it's what's next. What's up, everyone? Jez Berganzo, what's next? Your daily dose, common sense, facts, and salt. Hope you guys are feeling good today. Of course, it is Tuesday. Well, yesterday was a hell of a day. Finally, to quote The Rock, finally, he's getting his comeuppance. He's getting what's coming to him. He's getting what's due. Who am I talking about? Dr. Anthony Fauci, yes, head of Mr. Wuhan. Pandemic caused the deaths of millions. Well, not caused it, but allowed it to happen because of talks of bullshit, the pandemic, the magical poke, and what have you. Finally steps in front of Congress. Well, it's not the first time he stepped in front of Congress, but since he's retired, calling him out on all the bullshittery that has occurred since 2020. And what was the result? Well, outside of, well, you're a bad man and here's a little pat in the head and off you go. That's it. Did you think he was going to get sent to the gallows? Yeah, it would have been nice, but no. And here we go. This comes out of the New York Post. Key moments when Anthony Fauci contradicted himself during heated COVID hearings. Former National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, Dr. Anthony Fauci contradicted himself several times in past statements from the COVID-19 pandemic when he testified before Congress on Monday. The top pandemic advisor for two presidential administrations retired from the company in 22 after nearly 4 decades as head of the company, faced sharp questions about the reversals from Republican members of the House Select Committee subcommittee on the pandemic COVID. Americans were aggressively bullied, shamed, and silenced for merely questioning and debating issues such as social distancing, masks, vaccines, and the origin of the coof. Chairman Brad Wenstrup of Ohio said in his opening remarks to Fauci, who is 83 years old. We have to mention that because it might be a little stressful for him. Quote, "You took the position that you presented the science, and your words came across as final and infallible in matters pertaining to the pandemic," the chairman added before he and other Republican panel members recounted those past statements. 6th degree of separation. Anybody who's looking for it carefully realizes there is all distinct anti-science flavor to this, Fauci said in November of 21. Face the nation. So he gets up and criticize. So if they get up and criticize science, nobody's going to know what they're talking about. But if they get up and really aim their bullets at Tony Fauci, well, people could recognize there's a person there. There's a face. There's a voice you could recognize. You see him on television. So it's easy to criticize, but they're really criticizing science because I represent science. And that's dangerous. It sort of just appeared. I don't recall, Fauci said in January, congressional interview, social distancing mandate imposed on federal agencies, businesses, schools, just an empiric decision that wasn't based on data or even data that could even be accomplished. Quote, "When I say it was not based on science, I meant prospective clinical trials to determine whether 6 foot was better than 3 or 4, 5, 6, or even 10. Fauci said Monday during his testimony, adding that that it was a CDC decision, yes, throwing them under the bus. Quote, "We had discussions in the White House about that." He acknowledged when asked when the mandate wasn't changed. But when the CDC's decision made it clear, it was their decision to make, and they made it. I had nothing to do with it, said Fauci. Masking is necessary even for children as young as 5. March of 2020. Fauci, 60 Minutes interview. Wearing a mask make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing perfect protection, because of science. Fauci went on to flip the supporting mask, even calling it for the imposed to be on school children as an extra step of caution, July of 21, CBS This Morning. Quote, "All of that was in context at the time. 4,000 or 5,000 people a day were dying," Fauci said in Monday's hearing before admitting, there was no study that the mask did anything for kids. COVID vaccine opposition is ideological bullshit. Quote, it's been proven that when you make it difficult for people to live their lives, they lose their ideological bullshit and they get vaccinated, Fauci said in October 2020. On Monday, Fauci, that's not what I was referring to, and the objections to COVID vaccines were not, in fact, ideological bullshit. What are you talking about, my guy? Lab leaks proponents are promoting a conspiracy theory. Not on my part, Fauci said when asked about he participated in efforts of federal public health White House officials to downplay the pressure on big tech companies to censor proponents on lab leaked theory. Quote, but look at the facts. I kept an open mind throughout the entire process, Fauci also said. Then Francis Collins, then director of NIH on October 20, emailed Fauci with a quick and devastating takedown to leading epidemiologists, including Stanford's Jay Bhattacharya, who authored the Great Barrington Declaration in opposition to the COOF, lockdowns, and other mitigating measures. Fauci and Collins also participated in efforts to produce a controversial research theory study called The Proximal Origins of SARS-CoV-2, was pushed to debunk the lab leak theory. Quote, I've heard these conspiracy theories before, Fauci said in February. Chinese military ties to the Wuhan, which was later confirmed by U.S. intelligence assessment, they're just conspiracy theories. And finally, vaccines are a dead end to COVID. Quote, when you get vaccinated, you not only protect your own health and that of your family, but also contribute to the community health by preventing the spread of the virus throughout the community based on science, Fauci said in a CBS interview Face the Nation of May of 21. In other words, you become a dead end to the virus. Yes, it stops it right in its tracks. On Monday, vaccines save lives. It's very, very clear a vaccine has saved hundreds of thousands of lives in Americans. In the beginning, it's clearly preventive infection in a certain percentage of people, but the durability of the ability to prevent infection was not long. It was measured in months. Another quote, I did not, he added, prevent transmission when the ability to prevent infection waned. Well, I said this because of science. Later, well, you know what? What I really meant to say was, the fact of the matter is that Fauci's a piece of shit. He is. He's an absolute piece of shit. He knew exactly what he was doing at the time during 2020. And once Trump put him in the forefront, put him in charge, delegated authority to him, and took a step back, that's when Fauci stepped up on a pedestal, basically became Napoleon, and said, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. Here's the 6-foot measure. Here's wearing masks for little children. Here's closing down businesses and schools and churches. And you can't do a fucking thing about it. Why? Because of science. It's based on science. And if you contradict me, you're contradicting science because I am the Lord of science. That's Fauci. So all this bullshit and shenanigans that occurred yesterday meant nothing. Absolutely, in the end, it means nothing. He's not going to be put on trial. He's not going to have charges faced. He's not going to get arrested. And he sure as hell won't be sent to the gallows. That's it. That's the only resolution. That's Nuremberg 2.0. If you're going to do it right, do it right. If you're going to just sit there and freaking, well, you've been a bad man. You've been an absolutely bad man, and you must not pay for your crimes. How do you feel right now? Do you feel guilty? Do you feel guilty with everything that you said and done, which is contradicted bullshit? Do you feel guilty? Fauci's sitting there going, nope, not me. They did it. They did it. I had nothing to do about it. I was the messenger. That's all I was. And that's it. So all this talk, and you wonder why the news didn't even promote this shit. It wasn't on Twitter. It wasn't on any social media. It was basically like an afterthought. Because of course, everything with Trump trial and what have you, convicted, 34 counts, yada, yada, yada. But anyway, this was nothing. It was just an afterthought. This whole congressional bullshit was just an afterthought, and nothing came of it. And with that being said, I'm Jazz Borganzo. This is What's Next. Want to see more like this? Please leave a comment below. Like it, share it, subscribe to it. Hit that notification bell so you guys never miss a thing. Continue watching the show, spreading the word. Appreciate you guys watching as always, and we'll see you next time. Peace.